Hey everybody, welcome to Andy's Motormouth. I'm Andy. I hope you all are having a good day out there today. So I wanted to talk to you today about a test drive I took last week. I was participating in some market research with Skoda Ireland. So I just want to say thank you to Skoda Ireland for inviting me out for the market research on Friday. It was a very enlightening experience, to say the least. What we were test driving was a Skoda Octavia. So went out and I was told it was the new 1.8 that they were actually going to be testing in Ireland because they're trying to broaden their petrol offering over here. So it was a beautiful car to drive, I got to say. A nice 6-speed gearbox. It was relatively quick. I'm not going to say it was blisteringly fast by any means of the word, but it wasn't sluggish. It had no problem at all keeping up with traffic. I drove it on the motorway and I drove it on some back roads. Never once was it loud, noisy. It was very, very comfortable. I think at one stage I was driving at 3,000 RPM on a back road. Didn't even hear the engine. It was lovely. But again, so we were taking this 1.8 for the test drive. Very, very quick, very comfortable. The whole thing was being filmed, so I didn't film it. It may show up on the Skoda social media at some stage, at which stage I will link to it. So basically, we took this car for a test drive. Very, very impressed with it. Very, very quick. And the one thing I was curious about was why they were actually bringing out a 1.8 into the Irish market. I personally think Irish people in general kind of buy with their wallets, and actually buy with what numbers are on a page versus what's actually what they want to drive with their heart, effectively. And that's something I'll go into now in a little bit, because I want to cover that and then something else. But we were driving the car anyway. It was fine, it was grand. But I was talking to the chap who I was driving the car with, and I was curious as to why they were bringing a 1.8 offering into the country, because again, a 1.8 engine, when everything, 1.8 petrol engine is quite odd. And so again, he was explaining to me, and it made perfect sense at the time when I was talking to him. So what we were doing then is that we sat down, had a bit of a chat. We were talking about smaller engines, larger engines, and the 1 litre engine. I know that Skoda are bringing out a 1 litre 3-cylinder engine, which of course we all know 3 cylinders, they're rattly, they're noisy. I was quite curious how it would fare, a 1 litre engine in a large car like a Skoda Octavia, because the one thing is not as small. So we were yapping away anyway, and it became very apparent, well, it became apparent when you said it to me, that I was actually driving the 1 litre all along. I never knew. It wasn't the 1.8 at all, which makes perfect sense now in hindsight why they're releasing a larger engine. But the point they were trying to make is that downsizing isn't necessarily a bad thing. So you're driving this 1 litre engine in a large car, and again, anyone who looks at cars, most people would have a passing idea of engine sizes and how they would affect, or how they would be affected by heavy cars, light cars, etc. And so for me especially, a 1 litre car to me was always something that you'd find in a smaller car, maybe a hatchback, gutless engine. And also a 3-cylinder of all things. A 3-cylinder 1 litre engine is exceptionally small. You would expect it to be exceptionally loud. As I said a few minutes ago, I was driving it at one stage at 3,000 RPM and I didn't hear it. It didn't sound or feel like a 1 litre or a 3-cylinder engine for that matter. It took me completely by surprise. I was very, very, very shocked to find out that I've been driving the 1 litre all along, and I've got to say, I would buy it. A 1 litre engine, it was returning 6.4 litres per 100 kilometres on average. So, you're looking at about 42 mile per gallon on a car as big as an Octavia. I'm not saying it's the biggest car in the world, but it certainly isn't small. So you've got this relatively decent sized car with a tiny engine and a 3-cylinder of that, returning 40 odd mile per gallon. It's a stunning car. I was genuinely shocked. I'm not sure if it will make the cut into the video they release, but I was so taken aback I actually swore on camera without realising it. Not my intention at all. But I was genuinely shocked, and I've got to say that if anyone is in the market for Skoda Octavia, and you all better be, because it's one hell of a car, I really suggest looking at the 1 litre. A lot of people would take a look on paper and go, 1 litre, nah, and they'd immediately kind of try and jump for the next largest engine up, or obviously being that diesels sell an awful lot in this country, they'd jump for the 1.6 diesel. But I've got to say, that 1 litre engine was stunning, and it genuinely shocked me. It also proved to me that the downsizing thing isn't a negative. Now, don't get me wrong, certain things, you're going to lose a bit of soul or whatever else. But again, most drivers aren't looking for that. I personally was shocked, and it kind of brings me on to another point, and that is, I personally identify as a petrol head. Now, I don't like that term in particular because it's too, well, I don't know what, this is kind of my question to you. I personally, the term petrol head to me is a relatively broad term, and what it means to me is somebody, and I'm classing myself in this, who loves cars. Not somebody who jumps in a car, drives it, and gets from A to B. Somebody who enjoys their cars. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a quick car. It doesn't necessarily have to be a petrol car. It could be an electric car. It could be a diesel car. It could be a hybrid car. It doesn't really matter. But somebody who loves driving, somebody who wants to get in their car and drive, who wants to go somewhere, who uses it as an excuse to drive somewhere, who enjoys what they're doing. If they're driving a car which feels horrible, soulless, or just doesn't have any character, they purposely try and go out and purchase a car that does. Now, I know that sounds quite odd coming from somebody who drives what many people consider to be boring, in that it's a Volvo. This particular Volvo, as all Volvos are quite surprising, they're not slow cars. They're relatively quick. This particular one with the 2-litre engine and the turbo is 190 brake horsepower. It's not a slow car. It's quick when you want it to be. It's extremely comfortable when you want it to be. But the point is that I love it. I love getting into a car and driving, and that to me is what a petrol head is. But that being said, a petrol head to me is always somebody who loves cars, who they want to get in and drive quickly, who want to get in and drive comfortably. And a 1-litre car, or even anything less than like a 1.5 or so, for me in the past has never done that for me. It literally is a functional car. It gets you from A to B, and that's it. Whereas this Skoda made me think, hold on a second, I mean, this is a 1-litre engine. And I never noticed it. And that raises an issue for me, I think, is that, am I right in my definition of petrol head? Am I a petrol head? Because I got into that 1-litre car and drove it without realising it was a 1-litre car. And that, to me, as a person who loves their cars, was quite surprising. It kind of, shock is the wrong word to use, but it's definitely made me think, am I a petrol head in the broadest sense of the term? Am I a petrol head? Am I somebody who realises what they're driving when they're driving it? I mean, up until I parked that car, it was a 1.8 litre in my mind, and I had no reason to argue. It was quick, it kept up with traffic on the motorway, it was relatively quick on the back roads. As I said, you couldn't hear the thing at 3,000 RPM, it wasn't making a racket or anything else. And it was just something I genuinely was not expecting. And so, the question I have is obviously, what is a petrol head? Do you identify as a petrol head? How do you, or questions should I say, how do you term yourself as a petrol head? Well, what is it to you? What makes you a petrol head? What makes me a petrol head? Am I wrong in thinking that it's just this general term of somebody who loves driving? Does it have to be somebody who loves big V8s? Does it have to be somebody who likes power? Don't get me wrong, I love V8s. I wind my window down every time in the hope every time I see a Mustang that it's a V8 versus the 4-cylinder Mustang. But I do. Don't get me wrong, I love power, I love big V8s, I love V12s, whatever. But let's be realistic here. Most of us can't afford those. So therefore, I've got to try and be a petrol head in some other way. And in my way, it's driving my Volvo S60. I don't drive it frugally. I've got a quite heavy right foot. I'm not going to lie and say I don't, because I like the power that it has. But this test drive at the weekend has definitely thrown a quandary for me anyway, because I genuinely would buy that Skoda. If I had the money tomorrow, I mean, the model I was driving, I think with the spec and everything else, was about €25,000, which is not a lot of money for a brand new car. And so it's definitely surprised me in that sense. And I definitely would. Over the diesel, I've always said if I was buying a new car, if I was buying a new Skoda, I'd go for the 2-litre diesel. Because one, it's frugal. Two, it's not slow. Whereas this, I would buy this. I would actually go out and purchase this 1-litre car. And I do recommend anyone who's looking for a car, anyone who has that kind of money to spend, sit in the 1-litre. Take it for a drive. Don't just write it off by saying, oh, it's a 1-litre and that's the end of it. Drive the car. Be surprised. Be like me. It's a genuinely shocking experience, and it has made me think over the weekend, and it's taken me a couple of days to try and gather my thoughts in the sense of identifying as a petrol head. I suppose I'm just a car nut rather than the petrol head. So it doesn't have to be petrol, it doesn't have to be electric, it doesn't have to be diesel. I just love cars. And maybe, I don't know, well, what do you think out there? just let me know. I mean, stick things obviously in the comments below. Comment on the Facebook page if you want. It really is up to yourself. But again, it's just made me think, and I just want to throw it out there and see what you guys think. See what your opinions are. So that's really it. I do want to thank Skoda Ireland again for inviting me to participate in the market research. It was enlightening in more than one way. It was enlightening in the fact that it's a smaller engine, and downsizing isn't necessarily a bad thing. And it's been enlightening in the sense that it's made me think over the weekend. It's giving me food for thought and giving me something to think about. So I really want to thank Skoda Ireland for that. And with any luck, hopefully I can actually get it on a camera and get actually a proper test drive for you guys, so you can actually see what it's like and try and experience through the lens of the camera, vicariously, as you say, what this car is actually like. And hopefully it gets some bums and seats, because too many people are going to write that off as being too small an engine or a gutless engine, and it really isn't. It's a great car. It's definitely worth the money, and I certainly would buy it. So anyway, you guys, please comment below, let me know what you think. I just want to thank you again for your time, and talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.